It started on a Wednesday morning in Ms. Mary Collins's seventh-grade homeroom, the kind of ordinary day where nothing extraordinary was supposed to happen. Mabel Johnson sat near the back of the classroom, her pencil moving across the margins of her notebook, small, careful drawings of buildings and shadows that no one ever asked to see. She preferred it that way. Invisible meant safe. "All right, class," Ms. Collins announced, clapping her hands together with practiced enthusiasm. "Let's do something fun today. Parents' Careers Share Circle. I want each of you to tell us what your parents do for a living. It'll help us appreciate the diverse community we have here." Students perked up, eager to brag. One by one, they went around the room. "My dad's a nurse at County General. My mom owns a hair salon downtown. Both my parents are accountants." Polite applause followed each answer. Ms. Collins nodded approvingly, her smile warm and encouraging. Then her eyes landed on Mabel. "Mabel, what about your mom?" The room turned, 23 pairs of eyes fixed on the quiet girl in the back. Mabel's throat tightened. She thought about the late-night texts that said, "I'm okay, baby. Be asleep when I get home." She thought about the heavy black case her mom locked in the closet before showering, the way she moved with a controlled precision even when making breakfast. Mabel swallowed hard. "My mom, she's on the SWAT team, the Police Special Weapons and Tactics Unit." Silence for exactly 2 heartbeats. Then the laughter erupted. "Yeah, right," Marcus Jenkins barked from the front row. "Like in Call of Duty?" "Girls aren't SWAT," another voice added. "Stop lying. You mean security guard, right?" someone else called out, and the giggles spread like wildfire. Mabel's face burned. "No, I mean, Mabel." Ms. Collins's voice cut through the chaos, but it didn't bring relief. The teacher's smile had tightened into something else, something that looked almost like pity mixed with disapproval. "Honey, we're sharing real jobs today. You don't need to make up stories to seem important." The word hung in the air, unspoken but deafening. Liar. Mabel's eyes dropped to her desk. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her pencil. Around her, whispers spread like poison. SWAT Girl. Liar Mabel. Cop fantasy. The bell rang eventually, and students filed out, their laughter trailing behind them. Mabel stayed in her seat a moment longer, blinking back tears. What she didn't know was that in less than 48 hours, every person in that classroom would learn exactly what happens when you call the truth a lie. Mabel pushed through the apartment door at 3:47 p.m., letting her backpack slide off her shoulder and hit the floor with a dull thud. The small apartment was quiet. Her mom wouldn't be home for another hour. She headed straight to her room, closed the door, and pulled out her sketchbook, trying to lose herself in the safety of pencil and paper. But the lines wouldn't come right. Every stroke reminded her of the laughter, the whispers, Ms. Collins's pitying smile. You don't need to make up stories. An hour later, she heard the front door open. Keys jingling, the familiar sound of boots being kicked off in the entryway. "Mabel? Baby, I'm home." Kate Johnson appeared in the doorway moments later, still in jeans and a fitted black shirt. Her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. To anyone else, she looked like any other working mom coming home tired. But Mabel knew better. She knew the lean muscle in her mother's arms, the way she moved through doorways, scanning rooms without thinking, the controlled power that hummed beneath the surface. Kate's smile faded the moment she saw her daughter's face. "What happened?" She crossed the room and sat on the edge of Mabel's bed, her voice gentle but firm. And don't say nothing. I can read you better than that." Mabel tried to hold it in. She didn't want her mom to feel guilty about her job, didn't want to be the reason Kate second-guessed the work she was so good at. But Kate waited with the patient stillness of someone trained to outlast any silence. And finally, the dam broke. The whole story spilled out through tears. The careers circle, the laughter, Marcus's mocking, and worst of all, Ms. Collins calling her a liar in front of everyone. Kate listened, her jaw tightening incrementally with each detail. When Mabel finished, Kate pulled her close. "You told the truth. That's never wrong." "But nobody believed me," Mabel whispered against her mother's shoulder. "Even the teacher said I was lying." Kate pulled back, cupping Mabel's face in her hands. Her eyes held something Mabel couldn't quite name. Not anger, but something harder, more focused. Sometimes people need to see the truth to believe it. That night, after Mabel fell asleep, Kate made 3 phone calls. The last one was to her commanding officer. "I need a favor," she said, her voice steady and professional. "There's a school safety training scheduled for Friday. I need to be on that team." 2 days. That's all it would take. Thursday morning felt like walking through quicksand. Mabel kept her head down in the hallways, avoided eye contact in every class, and counted the minutes until she could disappear back home. Third period, Ms. Collins stood at the front of the classroom discussing their unit on character and integrity. She clicked to a slide that read, "Honesty, the foundation of trust." "Class, honesty means telling the truth, even when it's difficult," Ms. Collins said, pacing slowly. "But it also means not exaggerating or making up stories for attention. Some people, especially at your age, might feel tempted to stretch the truth to seem more interesting or important." She didn't look at Mabel. She didn't have to. 3 students glanced back at her desk. Marcus smirked. The message was crystal clear. At lunch, Mabel sat alone at the corner table near the windows. Her former friend group occupied their usual spot across the cafeteria, laughing at something on someone's phone. When one girl glanced her way, Mabel quickly looked down at her sandwich. "Who even lies about their mom's job?" she heard someone whisper behind her. "So weird. Like, why SWAT? Why not just say she's a cop or something?" The afternoon dragged. In art class, her one safe space, Mabel found herself sketching without thinking. When she looked down, she'd drawn tactical gear, a helmet, strong hands gripping a weapon. She quickly flipped the page. At 2:15 p.m., the principal's voice crackled over the intercom. "Teachers and students, a reminder. Tomorrow we'll conduct an enhanced safety and lockdown drill with participation from local law enforcement. This is part of our ongoing campus security improvements. Please review lockdown procedures this afternoon." Around the classroom, students groaned. "Not another drill?" someone muttered. "So boring." Ms. Collins barely glanced up from her desk, already mentally checked out for the week. But Mabel's stomach twisted into a knot. Friday. Tomorrow. The timing felt too specific, too coincidental. She thought about her mom's phone calls last night, the way Kate had watched her extra carefully this morning at breakfast. That evening, Kate made Mabel's favorite dinner, chicken Alfredo with garlic bread. She asked questions, listened intently, seemed somehow more present than usual. When Mabel mentioned the drill, Kate's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. The next morning, Kate's hug lasted longer than usual, firmer. "Remember what I told you," she whispered against Mabel's hair. "The truth doesn't change just because someone refuses to see it." "Will you be at work tomorrow?" Mabel asked. Kate smiled, a strange, knowing smile. I'll be exactly where I need to be. Friday morning, second period. Ms. Collins was mid-sentence, explaining the difference between similes and metaphors, when the intercom crackled to life with an urgency that made everyone freeze. All students and staff, lockdown drill in progress. Remain in your classrooms. Secure all doors. This is not a test tone. Something in Principal Hayes's voice sounded different, tighter, more controlled. Ms. Collins's marker hovered above the whiteboard. Students exchanged uncertain glances. Then they heard it, heavy boots in the hallway. Not the casual shuffle of security guards doing their usual walk-through, but synchronized, purposeful steps that echoed off the lockers like drum beats. Clear! Moving! Left side secure! The commands were sharp, professional, military precise. Ms. Collins went pale. She moved toward the door, then stopped, uncertain. Several students sat up straighter in their seats. Even Marcus, who never took anything seriously, had gone quiet. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Mabel's heart hammered against her ribs. The classroom door swung open. 6 figures in full tactical gear swept into the room in perfect formation. Helmets, tactical vests loaded with equipment, weapons held in controlled, ready positions. The lead figure was shorter than the others, but moved with an authority that made everyone instinctively lean back. "Room secure," the leader announced, voice modulated and professional through the helmet. The team held position. The leader's visor-covered gaze swept across the classroom in a tactical assessment, reading angles, counting students, evaluating threats. Then that gaze stopped, locked onto one specific desk in the back. A pause, barely a heartbeat, but loaded with 1,000 unspoken words. The leader's gloved hand moved smoothly, holstering her weapon with practiced ease. She reached up, tapped the side of her helmet, and lifted the visor in one fluid motion. A woman's face emerged, strong features, serious eyes that suddenly, impossibly, softened. "Mabel," she said, and the voice shifted from commander to something infinitely more tender. "You okay, baby?" Time stopped. Every head swiveled between the SWAT officer and the quiet girl in the back. Marcus's mouth fell open. The girl who'd whispered "security guard" covered her mouth with both hands. Ms. Collins gripped her desk so hard her knuckles turned white. Kate Johnson stepped further into the room, still in full tactical gear, the SWAT patch clearly visible on her vest. "I'm Sergeant Kate Johnson with the city's SWAT unit," she said calmly, her voice filling every corner of the silent classroom. "And Mabel is my daughter. She didn't lie. She just told you who I really am." The silence in the classroom was absolute. 23 students sat frozen, barely breathing. Kate surveyed the room with the same tactical precision she'd used to clear it moments ago, but now she was reading faces, measuring the weight of what had just shifted. Her eyes found Ms. Collins, who still gripped her desk, unable to meet Kate's gaze. "School safety isn't a game," Kate began, her voice calm but carrying undeniable authority. "SWAT teams train for active threats, hostage situations, high-risk operations. We work when seconds mean the difference between life and death. This job isn't about gender or race or what people think we should look like. It's about skill, courage, and commitment." She paused, letting the words settle. "My daughter has lived with this reality her whole life. The missed birthdays, the late nights, the danger. She knows what I do because she's seen the cost of it. When she told you the truth about me, she was trusting you with something real. Kate turned directly toward Ms. Collins now, professional but pointed. When children share their truth, especially when it challenges our assumptions, our job as adults is to listen, not dismiss. Not to call them liars because their reality doesn't fit our expectations. Ms. Collins's face flushed. I didn't know. I thought she was exaggerating. You thought she was making it up because a black woman in SWAT didn't match the picture in your head, Kate said quietly. The words weren't cruel, just unflinchingly honest. The teacher had no response. Shame colored her features. Kate's expression softened as she moved toward Mabel's desk. She removed her tactical gloves and knelt beside her daughter, taking Mabel's trembling hand in both of hers. "Next time somebody laughs at your truth," Kate whispered, loud enough for the class to hear, "you remember this moment. You don't shrink yourself to fit their imagination. You stand in what you know, and you let them catch up." Mabel nodded, tears streaming down her face, not from humiliation this time, but from something that felt like vindication, like pride, like being seen. "I'm proud of you," Kate said softly, then stood and returned to commander mode. She signaled her team. They filed out with the same precision they'd entered with, boots echoing down the hallway. The door closed behind them. For several seconds, no one moved. Then, quietly, a girl near the front turned to Mabel. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Marcus stared at his desk. Others nodded, unable to find words. When the bell finally rang, students filed past Mabel differently, with respect, with space, with new eyes. One boy paused at her desk. "Your mom is really incredible." Mabel smiled, small but genuine. "I know." She pulled out her notebook and began to draw, not hiding in the margins anymore, but claiming the whole page. Her mother in full tactical gear, visor up, smiling. Underneath, in careful letters, "My mom, Sergeant Kate Johnson, SWAT." She was still the quiet girl who sat in the back, but now everyone knew. Quiet didn't mean invisible, soft didn't mean weak, and the truth, even when it came in tactical boots and Kevlar, always found a way to stand its ground.